Yes, that's Ben Nicholson-Smith, co-host of the At the Letters podcast in studio. Just me, or did this one kind of, like, it felt almost anticlimactic, because this could have been a high water mark.
Absolutely. I mean, they were playing so well for most of this series, and it just felt like a long series. It was a long series.
Yeah, it was five.
I think there's a reason the Major League Baseball schedules 3- and 4-game series most of the time. This one just kind of felt like the game that didn't need to happen for the Blue Jays, but obviously it did. It counts. It could have been, like you said, Tim, it could have been a chance to really push things forward. But look, I mean, they're still 11-4 in September. This team is playing great. They're in a good spot.
Yeah, they were a Major League best 11-3 in September coming into this one. As mentioned, 11-4. Maybe didn't feel right for Jays fans, but it just feels right when we bring Jamie and Joe into the conversation. Jamie Campbell, Joe Siddall from the Rogers Center. Welcome in, boys. And Jamie, did we just see what the Tampa Bay Rays do so well? Pitch and then just grind you.
I don't know. You know why I say that is Joe turned to me before this game even began. And remember, before this game began, the Blue Jays had taken 3 of 4 and said it's funny when you get a real good look at other teams, because we watch the Blue Jays every day. You do see some of their warts, right? And I think you saw a little bit of the imperfections of the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, everything came together as you just witnessed over the last 3 or so hours, and they handily defeated the Blue Jays 11-0. But I think you saw, especially where their bullpen is concerned, you saw some avenues where you can match up quite nicely with this team.
Well, and then you look at the starting pitchers, Tim, and when you got Shane McClanahan, it's against Gausman. It's a great matchup, but offensively you are going to be in tough. And it's great that you have Gausman going, but I felt when Yandy Diaz hit that home run in the second inning off Gausman to make it 4-0, that's when my heart sank and said, uh-oh, this is going to be a tough day, because, number one, you've got McClanahan. You know he's not going to be out there too long, though, because he's coming back from injury. But at the same time, the big boys were lined up for Kevin Cash down there, and I had heard that from him yesterday. So knowing McClanahan might be on a short leash, you've got your big boys. To me, it was going to be one of those 5-inning games, and Shane McClanahan won that 5-inning game over Gausman.
JB, still plenty of positives, though, over the 5 games. Like, if we take the bird's eye view of the entire series, plenty to take from this series for the Jays.
Well, look, you've got Bo Bichette hitting, like as Buck said during the broadcast these days, like Roberto Clemente. I mean, you saw a handful of 100-mile-an-hour pitches, and one of those was taken to right field by Bichette in his first at-bat of the game. The role he's on right now is just incredible. I mean, you can see the numbers in September right now. Those are off the charts good. There's no question about that. And it's funny watching the reaction, Joe, of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. right now, who's showing frustration, yet the guy's on a 9-game hit streak, right? And it's just that the hits, though they're not coming at these really critical times, say a couple of guys on base down by a run. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you're seeing it from him.
I hate to downplay anything Vladimir Guerrero Jr. does offensively, but I think he gets hits because he's non-human half the time. What he can do in the batter's box is just what other people can't do. He can take a pitch down and away and hit it 115 miles per hour for a double to right center, and his swing is not, I don't think, mechanically sound right now compared to when he is good, compared to what we saw a lot of last year in his MVP caliber season. He can hit a home run to left field here that just got into the Blue Jays bullpen last night in what I would say is by far not his A swing. It's not his A swing. He does not have his best swing going on right now. We keep hearing that he's working on things, he's doing things, but when I look at his swing right now, it's still not the same as when we see him in a groove. Hopefully he can find it. Time is running out, whether he's going to this year or not, but the funny part about it is he can still do a lot of damage. But you see the frustration. I think the frustration we're seeing from him could be a lot of things, but I think a big part of it is he knows too, because if people see it, or if I see it, or if I'm looking at video, breaking it down, as a hitter, when you're just not quite right and that timing's not there.
And you know what he's not doing, and you see this sometimes, he's not taking his at-bats out to the field, because his play defensively at first base, has been excellent most of the time, right?
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
I'm not going to go that far. I've had a couple of examples where maybe it has gone onto the field with him. But overall, yes, he's done a fine job first base.
Sometimes I have trouble finding first base too, Joe. I understand that. Ben, also, Vladdy making some news off the field today as he reiterated to Hector Gomez about a possible contract extension. And I quote, "I'm open to signing a long-term deal with the Blue Jays. I feel really happy playing here. I hope something can be done about it this offseason."
Well, that's a huge question, obviously, for the Jays moving forward. He said similar things to Hazel May in the recent past, and I think, at this point, Vladdy has 3 years left in arbitration. That's not a long time, for a guy who's still very young in his career, of course, with the Jays. You look at those arb years, that's going to cost, I would say, at least $50 million just for the arb years. Yeah. Then you get to the free agent years. There's no doubt. And I know, as Joe was just saying, the year has not been there for Vladdy up to his potential. And yet 134 OPS plus entering play today. That's the same as the career mark for Al Kaline, for Fred McGriff, for Prince Fielder. Wow. This is not a bad year that he's having.
It's not a bad year at all. And we'll get to a lot of feedback that we've been receiving since tweeting out that quote a little later on in this post-game show. We see stats in front of us, Jamie and Joe. But, Joe, we all know that stats are like swimsuit models. They show a lot, but they don't show everything. So on this show, we do a little thing called super stat or meaningless number. I'm going to give you a statistic. You tell me if it's a super stat or a meaningless number. Kevin Gausman gave up 7 home runs in his first 24 starts with the Toronto Blue Jays. He's given up 7 in his last 4 starts. Super stat or meaningless number?
That's a super stat. That's something I'd be concerned about because he's a guy that the fastball has always been a thing because it's somewhat straight. It's hittable. It gets hit. And when you're getting hit with that pitch, the thing is the splitter's so good. It's one of the best pitches in baseball, especially for a chase pitch. But we talked about the Diaz home run today in our 6th inning update, and I felt that a lot of his pitches will tend to move arm side, which means into righty. So if I'm a right-handed hitter, and anytime you're going against a great pitcher, you've got to try to give yourself the best chance. So maybe you eliminate half of the plate. So if most of his fastballs, and I say most because it's not everyone, and a lot of his splitters to righties are going to dive middle, down, and in, then you take that middle in portion of the plate, and that's where you look. You give him the other half. So if you can split the plate in half, now you're increasing your chances as a hitter. I think Diaz did that. Now, I don't know what's going through his head in the batter's box. When you're seeing all your pitches, almost all of them, middle in, you look that half of the plate. Give him the other half. If he gets you, he does. And he did freeze him on a fastball in that first at-bat. But you take your chances, and he left a splitter up in the zone.
Kevin Gausman has tenure, and yet you're pointing this out late in a season as this team's trying to reach the postseason again. Is that something that you can alter mid-season with something as simple, say, as a move on the rubber from left to right or whatever it may be? Or is that even necessary given what he's capable of doing?
Or even the style of your pitching, right? Maybe the pitch selection, maybe the location of those pitches, because we talked earlier in the season. Remember when we talked about his issues with everything was up in the zone with the fastballs and the splitters were all down. Then he started going down in the zone with the fastballs. Pitchers are adjusting all the time because hitters are adjusting all the time. Now coming over to the new league, maybe it took American League hitters now that came from the Giants a little bit of time to see what he is all about. And this isn't to say that they're on to him by any means, but you talk about a super stat or something to be concerned about? Sure, I'm sure he's concerned about it. He's given up, 5 runs each of the last 2 starts here?
Yeah.
So it has changed, and that has to be concerning, at least if it continues down the stretch here before they hit October.
All right, Benny, season series now 8-7 Rays, and this is kind of important, isn't it?
Well, it really is. So now, going into the next weekend, where they play the Rays again, 4 games at the Trop, the Jays will have to win 3 of those 4 games to take the season series from the Rays, which would be the tiebreaker for seeding if it comes to that. So basically, just win as often as you can and hope that you're ahead of the Rays in the win column at the end of the year.
But with 3 teams within a half game, it seems like we're going to go right down to the stretch, and who knows what Baltimore does, because, Jamie, no rest for the weary here for the Jays. Orioles right in here for a bullpen game for the Jays, and that's why we saw what we saw at the end of that game.
Yes, indeed. And I love the shots of John Schneider having deep conversations with Bradley Zimmer about the prospect of maybe him, as Dan and Buck so aptly stated, coming in to pitch to try and get somebody out to end this game.
Maybe he's asking if he can start tomorrow.
You know, I was thinking the same thing because before Trevor Richards came into this game, I turned to Joe and said, you know, he hasn't pitched yet in this series. The last time he pitched was in that loss in Texas. So maybe Richards is the guy to open Friday against Baltimore. And lo and behold, the guy comes in and has a whole lot of trouble getting people out. So I haven't looked at Twitter lately, guys, so I don't know if they've announced who's going to open tomorrow. But
not yet.
One way or the other, I think you're definitely going to see Yusei Kikuchi, right, at some point for multiple innings.
Without a doubt. One last one before I let you go, Joe. And Gabby Moreno in the lineup today. I don't want to piss off Alek Manoah, but any reason to worry about the hip on the big fella, Alejandro Kirk, 126 games in for him?
Well, yeah, certainly there's concern. He's one of your main catchers right now. Not only that, but a big offensive weapon. So I think what we've seen from Kirk, too, remember early in the season, we talked a lot, too, about how they were protecting his workload, and he wasn't catching 3 days in a row. And it was important for them to do that because he hit that kind of wall there where they felt that he was being overworked. So then it was kind of backed off a little bit. Then Jansen got hurt, so he had to play a little bit more. Then, of course, he's hitting so well and being an all-star, he ends up catching and DHing quite a bit, so he's playing a lot. And wouldn't you know it, I know we all had a lot of fun with him running the bases the other day. Schneider did as well. But at the same time, you look at something like that, and now he's got something with the hip going on. It's always concerning. I know as a catcher, if I got an issue with my hip, that's going to be a problem back there, and it's certainly going to be a problem in the batter's box. So we can only hope that it's very minor and they're just being very precautionary. But yeah, that would be a big blow to this team right now.
The hips don't lie, Tim. You know that. I mean, you listen to Shakira, right?
Yeah, I'm a big Shakira fan, without a doubt. No rest for Shakira's hips, no rest for Alejandro Kirk. His hips, and no rest for the weary and the Jays and their broadcast crew. 5 games in 4 days. We really appreciate you sticking around and doing this with us, gentlemen.
Nice to see you, fellas.
All right, Tim.
All right, there is Jamie and Joe down at the Dome. And must be noted, I thought it was a real classy move by Kevin Cash to start an all Latin American starting 9 on this Roberto Clemente day.
100%. Really cool to see that and see the number 21 across baseball. Maybe we'll see a day where that's retired. I think there's a great case to be made for doing that. In the meantime, to see number 21 worn by Bo Bichette and others is great to see.
Yeah, so if you were watching the highlights and didn't see the game today and wondered why the hell every one of the Rays were wearing number 21, all Latin American players basically are wearing the 21 today. And Bo Bichette, because he was the nominee for the Roberto Clemente Award for the Toronto Blue Jays, was given the option on whether or not he wanted to wear 21. And of course, if you're given the option to wear 21 on Roberto Clemente Day, you do it. We mentioned Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the quote that caught more than a few eyes earlier today. Jesse Rubinoff, we put that out on the socials. What's been the reaction to, one, Vladdy over the last little while, and two, this comment?
They're very related. So Hector Gomez, as you said earlier in the show, I'm open to signing a long-term deal with the Blue Jays. I feel really happy playing here. I hope something can be done about it in the offseason, was the quote from Vladdy. And then we asked, what contract would you offer Vladdy this offseason? Here are some of the responses from the friends of the show. Scott Rintoul says, as long as you send Tim McAuliffe to negotiate in his turtleneck, the deal gets done. Good start.
We're going all the way back to yesterday, right off the top.
I had to.
Here,
It's
right?
too good. The Couch GM says,
I got it.
I hope Vladdy and Manoah get signed long-term this summer. I don't care how much money it costs.
There'll be a lot of that.
There was a lot of that. Brad says, and this is one of my favorite gifts, obviously, $1 billion. Marcel, I would wait till playoffs are done. If he continues to choke in crucial situations, then pay him what he deserves. Not much. Can't pay someone big money who doesn't lead, is a wannabe superstar, but can't live up to the billing. Maybe next year.
Now, it's interesting, though, to note that there is no avatar on Marcel's Twitter account, which may give him a little bit more guts when tweeting in something like that. The funny thing is with the first couple tweets and some of the ones that I saw pouring in, I'm like, how many of these people who are saying $1 billion, all the money, give them what they deserve, are also ripping Vladdy? Because sometimes we see that on Twitter, right, Ben?
100%. I mean, it's a long season. There are ups and downs to it. And I think when players struggle, we really do see that criticism pour in. It's interesting, though. Like, it's going to cost a ton. And I don't even know if you know, the time to get him to a below-market deal might have passed. And same with Bo Bichette. The way that Bo has been playing, you know, that time might have passed for him as well, because he's only 3 years away.
Yeah. This is going to be really interesting. And listen, part of that equation is Ross Stripling. And I want to get into that coming up, because you've got these two young guys who still have arm control, and then what do you do with the starting rotation moving forward? Stripling was pretty good. I'm just trying to tease so that when we come back from the break, you're still here with us. Ben's sticking around. Jesse's sticking around. We hope you will as well. Plenty more Jays talk on the way. We'll hear from John Schneider post-game after the break. And as always, your feedback as the Jays lose to the Rays. 11-0 is the final as they take 3 of 5 from Tampa. Tim and Friends post-game. Please stick around. It's our livelihood.